Still got a list of
Senator Madigan.
Thank you, Chair. I've got some questions relating to Phoenix activity. What does ASIC define as Phoenix activity?
John. So, first of all, I should note that there is no, I suppose, legal definition, if you like, of Phoenix activity. But generally speaking, I think what regulators should really be concerned about is Phoenix activity. So if I go back a step, Phoenix activity or activity of transferring a business from one particular entity to another particular entity for a variety of reasons can either be legal or in some circumstances it might be illegal. Now there's no legal definition of what constitutes illegal Phoenix activity, but really the hallmarks of Phoenix activity that I think are of strong interest to us are where business transactions occur, transferring assets or businesses to a new entity, where that is designed to defeat the interests of creditors in the initial company. So that's the specific activity that we're really concerned about. There's no legal definition.
Okay.
Not in our legislation in any event.
Does ASIC keep records, statistics of the definition that you've described of how prevalent Phoenix activity is?
No, we don't. Certainly there have been a number of reports that have been in the marketplace over recent times, so some reports by academics, some reports by large accounting firms, but part of the difficulty, as I say, is that there's no specific definition as to what it is, so it's very difficult to track when there might be that transfer of assets from one entity to another entity.
So ASIC then would have no idea of the cost of this activity to sole traders, small and medium-sized businesses?
That's not strictly true. We rely on external research that has been available in the area. So, for example, as I said, one of the large accounting firms have done estimated costing in relation to what amount of money illegal Phoenix activity might cost the Australian economy. I don't have those figures to hand, but I'm happy to take that on notice. We do have access to that,
Thank you.
That information.
Does ASIC keep records with respect to the prosecution of those involved in this type of activity that you've described?
Yes, certainly where it's apparent to us that there have been breaches of our laws and they relate to illegal Phoenix activity, we do publicise those. So, for example, one of the strong enforcement focuses we have are on people who might be facilitating this type of activity. So some years ago we took enforcement action against a lawyer, Mr Timothy Somerville, who we say was promoting illegal Phoenix activity. We also take action from time to time against insolvency practitioners who we say have promoted illegal Phoenix activity, and those enforcement results tend to typically be reported in our enforcement reports, which are public documents that we issue on a 6-monthly basis.
Senator, we also often, short of prosecution, we also often have we take banning action. So where a director has been involved in 2 or more companies that fail and fail to pay more than 50 cents in the dollar, there is a provision in the law that allows ASIC to take action to ban that person. And in respect of Phoenix company activity, that's something that we regularly do. We ban of the order of 50 to 60 persons each year, following on from reports of liquidators and the like. And we also engage in coordination with the Australian Taxation Office, which also has a particular focus on this. Indeed, we have a cross-agency task force on Phoenix.
Are you able to inform the committee how many prosecutions have occurred over the past couple of years, and is there an increase or is it decreasing, this sort of activity, people involved in this?
We'll try and get that information for you on notice, Senator, if we can. I don't have that to hand at the moment.
Is there a publicly available list of people who've been involved in this sort of activity?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, part of the difficulty with Phoenix activity is that it may be perfectly legal. So there may be perfectly legitimate reasons to restructure a business, or it may be illegal. And so...
more to the point, where people who've been involved in what you describe as illegal activity, is there a publicly available list of those persons?
Yes. I'd like to take that on notice if I can.
There's a list of those people that we banned.
Yeah,
That's right.
Which is a publicly available list. It's a
Okay, if you
register
could
that's available.
point us to where that is, that'd be good. And on average, how long have these individuals been who have been found to be involved in this sort of activity? Have they been disqualified from being directors of any other company?
Again, I'd need to take that on notice. I don't know if
fair
they're
enough. And what efforts are made to ensure that individuals who've been involved in this sort of activity and disqualified from holding directorships do not participate in the management of companies in an unofficial activity capacity? And that is what some people refer to as shadow directors.
Yeah. So we have a number of we have a number of activities underway to deter illegal Phoenix activity. There's obviously enforcement action that we've discussed. There's the director disqualification program that my colleague Commissioner Tanzer has mentioned. We also run what's called the liquidator assistance program. That is, in some instances where insolvency practitioners are appointed to particular companies, there are no assets left in those companies for the liquidator or the insolvency practitioner to investigate whether or not there was Phoenix activity. In those cases, we can either assist liquidators in obtaining documents from the directors, or alternatively, there is a fund called the Assetless Administration Fund where we can actually fund the work of the insolvency practitioner in investigating whether or not there's been a problem. I mentioned, or one important thing to mention is that the topic of Phoenix activity is actually not just of interest to ASIC. There are a number of government agencies that have a strong interest in this, not the least of which is the Australian Taxation Office. We work together on various interagency forums to coordinate the activity of the various regulatory agencies looking at this particular issue. And of course, there's also the important point around stakeholder engagement and pointing out to directors and also advisors of companies what their obligations are in terms of Phoenix activity. So as you can see, it's quite a broad, multi-pronged approach to this particular issue.
Other than the AETO, are there any other agencies involved?
In terms of the interagency work, well, there's the ATO, the Department of Employment will sometimes have an interest, as will the Fair Work Ombudsman as well.
Right, okay. Can you provide the committee with details of ASIC's current initiatives to address this kind of activity and how successful these initiatives have been to date?
Sure. So the initiatives I've sort of talked through before, it's around enforcement action, the director disqualification program, the liquidator assistance program, the administration of the Assetless Administration Fund, stakeholder engagement, participation in the Interagency Phoenix Forum. There's also surveillance that we do of insolvency practitioners to look for whether there are any particular risk indicators that they might be facilitating the activity. So that's the broad sweep of the work we do. In terms of the effectiveness of that work, look, I think judging regulatory effectiveness is always a difficult issue and an area where you might have some debate. But I think that the programs that I've mentioned do provide valuable assistance in conducting illegal Phoenix activity, which is not only illegal, but potentially results in the underpayment of taxation. And so it's an important issue for the public more generally.
And finally, are there any further initiatives that ASIC are looking at to address this?
Not at this particular time, but we're always welcome to suggestions around how we might improve the work we do or be more efficient. And so I'd welcome any comments from either the committee or any relevant stakeholders who have an interest in this matter.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very